The budget phone market is incredibly competitive at the moment with some excellent choices, not least the Nokia Lumia 635 and the Motorola Moto E. We've played with both, so let's decide which is the pick of the pair. The Nokia Lumia 635 follows the usual Nokia trend of being bright, colourful and slightly toy-like. It's obviously aimed at the young, fun-loving crowd, or anyone that's fed up with the usual black or white rectangle designs that the majority of modern smartphones seem to use. You've got your camera on the back, buttons on the side, and apart from that, very little else to speak of. The Moto E looks slightly more traditional. Available in black or white, it's a small, curvy handset that from a distance could pass for just about any phone, although you can add some colour to your Moto E with detachable rubber bands. It's a tough call between the Lumia 635 and the Moto E, but we'd go with the Moto E. Sure, it's not very adventurous, but you can always spice it up. There's no way to turn down the wackiness of a Lumia 635. The Lumia 635 packs a 4.5-inch display pushing 854 by 480 pixels. It's decent enough, although definitely not the sharpest, as you can see individual pixels with the naked eye. The maximum brightness is good enough for outdoor viewing, and the colours are suitably vivid. As for software, the 635 runs Windows Phone, which comparatively few people use. If you're used to Android or iOS, then you'll have to prepare to learn a new interface, for better or worse. The Moto E uses a slightly smaller 4.3-inch screen, but it uses a higher 960 by 540 pixel resolution, which allows for sharp, pleasing images. It uses the more popular Android operating system too. If you've ever used a phone that wasn't made by Apple, then you'll probably know how to use it without having to consult a manual. Performance is a mixed bag on the Lumia 635. It runs a quad-core Snapdragon 400 chip, but just 512 megs of RAM, and that means even simple tasks like scrolling through the apps menu occasionally creates lag. More complex tasks like 3D gaming aren't always perfect either, with demanding games occasionally suffering slowdown. Battery life on the Lumia 635 isn't especially impressive. Expect the 1830 mAh battery pack to run dry before a full day is out if you're a heavy user. The Moto E is better. Apps open quickly, the screen scrolls smoothly, and even fast-paced action and racing games play with surprisingly smooth frame rates. Battery life was okay too. After 24 hours of hard usage, we still had over 40% battery life remaining. Non-stop movie playback will whittle down the battery in a little over 5 hours, which is a good enough effort for a budget phone. Neither of these phones offers a sensational camera. Few budget phones do. The Lumia 635 has a 5-megapixel rear snapper, which is pretty poor. There's very little detail in many of its shots. Contrast is poor, pictures can end up quite blurry, and it's not very good in low light, particularly because there's no flash. The Moto E's camera is fairly rubbish too. It also uses a 5-megapixel sensor, but whereas the 635 has autofocus, this has a fixed focus lens, meaning only things in the middle distance or far away come out sharp. Objects that are up close often come out blurry. If you love pictures, ignore both these handsets or carry a separate camera. For less than £100, you might expect a phone made of plasticine and belly fluff, but both these handsets are surprisingly good value. The Nokia Lumia 635 is perhaps the weakest of the two, thanks to its polarizing design, lower resolution screen, and inferior battery life, but it's a good enough handset in its own right. The Moto G has the edge though, trumping its rival in just about every area.